More Americans than people in other advanced economies say COVID-19 has strengthened their religious faith. That is one of the many findings from a newly released survey on the global impact of the pandemic on faith and family bonds. The Pew Research Center survey conducted in the summer of 2020 reveals nearly 3 in 10 Americans, or 28%, report stronger personal faith because of the pandemic and think the religious faith of Americans overall has strengthened. Dr. Neha Sahgal, Associate Director of Research at Pew Research Center, joins me now on Skype to talk more about the study. Dr. Sahgal, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. This survey looked at 14 economically developed countries. How do the results from the U.S. compare to other countries on the subject of strengthening religious faith amid the pandemic?
Overall, we find that Americans are much more likely than people in other advanced economies to say that COVID strengthened their religious faith. So if I can throw some numbers at you, 28% of Americans say that COVID has in fact strengthened their faith, but that compares with just 10% of people in UK, for example, and even a lower share, in 9% in Japan.
What were your findings regarding U.S. Catholics specifically?
Catholics, about a third of Catholics in the United States say that their faith has strengthened. It's 35% who say they themselves are now experiencing stronger faith as a result of the COVID pandemic. And roughly the same share, I believe 31%, say that fellow Americans are experiencing stronger faith as a result of the pandemic.
I know we've talked about the percentage of Americans who feel that their faith is stronger because of the pandemic, but I also want to take a look at another figure from the poll. 68% of U.S. adults say their own faith has not changed much. How does this compare with other countries, and what do you think it suggests?
Well, I think one thing we have to keep in mind is that in other countries, a much higher share said that their faith is unaffected, and a much lower share said that their faith has strengthened. So I think the finding overall points to the stronger role of religion in American life than in the lives of many people who live in similarly advanced economies in Europe and in Asia.
I know that you also looked at family bonds during the pandemic. And what did you find there, and what are some of the takeaways?
So we also asked people if they think their bonds with their immediate family has strengthened or weakened or remained unchanged as a result of the pandemic. And there the findings are quite interesting. About 4 in 10 Americans, 41%, say that their bonds with their immediate family members have in fact strengthened. And that's true in a number of other advanced economies as well, where about 40% of people say that they are experiencing strong, closer relationships with their family members. I think one interesting thing about the United States, as well as people in some other advanced economies, is that younger people are more likely than their elders to say that their relationships with their immediate family members have strengthened. Now, of course, keeping in mind that a number of younger people have moved home as a result of the pandemic, at least in the United States, this is quite interesting.
Well, I'm curious, is there anything from the survey that maybe you found particularly interesting?
Yes, I think one finding, I just looked it up for this interview, as I thought you all would be interested, is with regard to Catholics. So as I mentioned to you earlier, that about a third of Catholics say that they are experiencing stronger religious faith because of the pandemic. Well, that also you have to compare with about half of Catholics say that their immediate family is now closer to them because of the pandemic. So you find that more Catholics are turning to sort of family bonds than to religion or than to their faith. And that 48% among Catholics is in fact higher than other religious groups. So if you compare with the white evangelical Protestants, among them about a third say that their bonds with their immediate family members are stronger. So overall, you find more Catholics than people who are evangelicals saying that their family relationships are closer.
Some very interesting findings indeed. Thank you so much for your time today. Dr. Neha Sahgal, Associate Director of Research at Pew Research Center. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.